When John F. Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1963, Vice President Lyndon Johnson suddenly became the President of the United States. Lyndon Johnson was a fascinating man, a complicated, larger-than-life figure, a native of Texas who grew up admiring Franklin Roosevelt and being actually employed by one of the New Deal agencies. He was committed to New Deal democratic liberalism during his career in the United States Senate during the 1950s and early 1960s, when he was a dominant figure in the Senate. He was a large man, well over 6 feet tall. He had a commanding, charismatic personality. He wanted to do two things in the aftermath of the tragic assassination of John Kennedy. He wanted to help relieve the nation's mourning and revive American ideals and energy and enthusiasm. And he also wanted to create a great presidency, like that of Franklin Roosevelt, his hero. And to do that, Lyndon Johnson launched a war on poverty, as he declared in 1964. For all of the much celebrated American prosperity of the 1950s and early 1960s, it had become apparent that a significant number of Americans, what came to be called the underclass of Americans, were not enjoying that prosperity. Instead, they were mired in a culture of poverty that imprisoned them, that really offered no way out for those Americans. And Johnson was determined to battle that sense, that culture of poverty. So he announced a war on poverty, and the next year, in 1965, he announced an even larger array of programs, comparable to what Franklin Roosevelt had done in the 1930s. Lyndon Johnson called it his Great Society, that a great society not only deals with creating wealth and prosperity and affluence for Americans, but a great society also ensures that every American has a warm bed and a secure house and a good job and a stable life. In the midst of those great society ideals, Johnson, however, became burdened and distracted by an escalating war in Vietnam. No sooner had he launched the war on poverty and the Great Society than the American involvement in Vietnam began to grow and grow and grow. It agonized Johnson that he was having to deflect dollars and energy from his domestic programs to dedicate to the war in Vietnam. But he felt he had no choice. By 1968, he was so frustrated that he said, "We can't win this war and we can't get out of this war." In some respects, it was a tragic situation. For a man who was determined to make a difference in terms of domestic life and for the underclass in the United States, he ended up losing his presidency over the war in Vietnam because he could not figure out a way to leave or to win. He lost both the war on poverty and the war in Vietnam, and in the process, lost a presidency.